Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is my good friend, the professor of chemistry at Cornell University, Dave Collum. Welcome back, Dave.
Hey, this is about the eighth time, so we got to stop meeting like this.
Yeah, hey, I got to stop seeing you like this. Gold's skyrocketing in price. There's so much happening in the world that people online are talking about, and I wanted to bring you on and talk about all the craziness. First I wanted to get your thoughts on gold. Is it going higher from here or lower? Do you think it peaked?
My crystal ball is in the shop. I just don't know. I've long since given up. Yeah, there's also no way to price gold. I mean, the financial markets are filled with bets or assets, and gold. There's ways people pretend to price gold, but it really is just a bet at some level.
Hmm.
Whereas something like a company has revenues, and you can say, look, if I buy it at this price, I'm buying this level of revenue, this level of earnings. You can kind of price that. But gold is just our central bank's going to really screw up. This is a place you're going to really take off. I don't know. I think the inflation story is much, much bigger than some people think. And I think Powell seems to know it. That's my guess.
And you see people online talking constantly that, if inflation numbers have been changed and they're calculated different from the 70s and the 80s compared to now in 2024, people are saying real inflation numbers are 7, 8, 9%, way higher than what they're actually reported from the government. So do you think Powell looks at that and says, okay, you know, government or the actual way inflation numbers that are calculated now are low, but the real inflation numbers are way higher. So is he just stuck? Can he reduce interest rates? What's his next move? Does he have to save the system?
You got to figure Powell knows the inflation numbers are understated because it would only take about 2 hours of reading to figure that out.
Right.
Uh, I've been recently noting that inflation over the last 30 years, while the gap between, say, shadow stats and the CPI is widened, or the shadow or the Chapwood index and the CPI is widened, over the last 30 years, it's averaged about a 5% gap, just sort of a column eyeball look,
Right.
which gets to some interesting points. One is that means that our 3.5%, 1 to 3.5% GDP prints are really more like -2% GDP prints. And so one
Wow.
could argue that our economy has been shrinking for many, many years. And you go, well, how could that possibly be? Well, it kind of feels that way, right? People have gotten progressively more stressed and strained, and so, there's all the .com type stuff out there, but that's not the economy, right? Chat
Right.
GPT is not the economy,
Right.
and so I would say that Powell must know about it, but I think he has to worry about the headline CPI,
Yeah.
and that will show inflation even if it's 5% low.
And central banks have been buying a ridiculous amount of gold in 2023 and 2024. So clearly they're accumulating and they see something that people don't really see. And then Powell was saying about 3 weeks ago in his interview, they asked him, what do you see with the commercial real estate market? And he tried to kind of blow it off and say, he doesn't see too much issues there, but he did say that we're gonna see lots of banks, like regional banks consolidate, basically saying that
Oh,
they're,
there's a euphemism for you. Consolidate. That
yeah,
means Jamie Dimon buys them, right?
Basically. So he said there's going to
Yeah.
be lots of banks in the next 2, 3 years that are going to be consolidated. And a lot of these banks right now, Dave, they have on their books unrealized losses. And because they invested so much money into commercial real estate, but now interest rates are high. So these banks are really underwater. And one of them is Bank of America. What happens if a bank like Bank of America now they have to show their unrealized losses because the bank funding term program ends this month. So what happens then? Like, does Powell have no option other than to turn on the printer and you see more banks consolidating? It's just crazy.
Well, it's like the crackhead. Does he have no choice but to take more crack? I'm not sure. Bank of America, last I looked, was the estimates were like 180 billion insolvent. That's probably up to 200 billion now.
Hmm.
Um, that is an insurmountable insolvency. I don't know how Powell's going to deal with that, but I think it'll involve a crisis. I don't think he will save them without a crisis because I think he needs cover.
Right.
And I think he would really love to impart some pain to the system before he does. I don't think he wants to. I don't think he wants to candy ass this one. I've been on panels with really elite economists. Why them and me? I guess I'm there as like a control experiment or something. But and I seem to be the Powell hawk in the sense that I think the world that thinks Powell's just going to flinch and he's going to change direction. He's going to start dropping rates, and the world is giddy about that. But if you actually look at the history of Fed reversing course and dropping rates, historically that usually occurs about a year and a half before the bottom.
Right.
And we haven't even started down yet.
No.
And in fact, it could be that when he starts dropping rates, that triggers the downslope. You can make that case from historical events. You can say, oh shit, what does he see that we're not seeing, right? So all of a sudden the selling starts. And then it bottoms at about the point he stops. And so I would say that if he's going to drop rates from 6 to 0 in quarter point increments, we've got a long haul ahead of us.
So I just wanted to let everyone know about our new sponsor, Strategic Wealth Preservation. They are an international precious metals dealer, and they are a secured storage provider that have headquarters in the Cayman Islands. The company owns and operates a large Class 3 UL rated vault in the Grand Caymans, and they offer other strategic locations as part of its global storage network. They specialize in the acquisition, secure storage, and liquidation of precious metals for individuals, companies, trusts, and wealth management professionals on behalf of their clients. So if you guys want to check them out, the link is in the description below. Yeah, and looking at politics in 2024, it could be a crazy, crazy year for the markets, for commercial real estate, everything, depending on which side it kind of leans to. And what's super important right now, Dave, is we're looking at everything that's happening with war. There's the war is constantly ongoing in 3-4 years with Russia and Ukraine. You see everything that's happening in the Middle East, conflict with Iran. Do you think that will play a major part in, like, because you see Powell, he wants more crises, or he needs a crisis to happen in order to reduce rates, in order to get that cover. But how long can these wars continue? You see with Europe, you see everything that's happening in Middle East. How would that affect the market, Dave?
Well, those could get explosive very quickly. So those could really become gray swans, right? You can't call it a black swan because I could say, well, if the Middle East gets really ugly, we didn't see it coming, right? but if it gets really ugly, say we didn't see that coming.
Right.
I have this feeling that Powell has a number of issues in his skull. One is inflation. I do believe that Powell must be looking at, NVIDIA and saying, this is getting embarrassing. These NVIDIA guys are starting to make me look like a putz here.
Yeah.
When one stock that's profoundly overpriced is moving the entire market, then there's just something wrong with the system. So I think Powell knows in the back of his head he's got to pop the speculative bubble, and it's a monster in my opinion. So and once that starts, then it tends to cascade. You mentioned commercial real estate. Once that cascade starts, it really cascades. The avalanche is as good a metaphor. You can say, well, it's only moving a little bit up at the top of the mountain. You go, yeah, well,
It's
we know
coming
what
quick.
happens.
Yeah.
We know what happens. And it's not a control. It's never going to be a controlled burn. And by the way, the guys who talk about soft landings, when things are good and stable, the word landing isn't even in the dialogue.
It's just a crash.
Right. So, it's going to be a soft landing, right? With clearing the runway and having emergency vehicles next to it, right? No, this is not going to be good. A hard landing is heaven only knows, right? A hard landing, everyone dies.
Yeah. And how long can they kick the can down the road? Like, let's say Powell does figure it out and says, okay, he cuts interest rates at quarter increments, 0.25 points over the next year, or let's say 2 years. Hopefully a year is what people are saying online. Maybe it won't even start till 2025. And it takes a year. Then, what if he does make it out alive and he actually, like, how long could they kick the can down the road? That's basically
the road's infinite, so you can kick it for infinity. The question is what happens as you're whacking away at the can on your way down the road. Inflation could become undeniably awful. I think anyone who's gone to the grocery store would say, excuse me, we're already there.
Yeah.
It's undeniably awful now. And it spiked and then it seemed to have sort of dialed back, but it's cumulative. So if you have 1 year of 20% inflation, the prices are going to hang out there forever.
Yeah.
So if I get a raise of 3% and the cost of my living goes up 20%, I just took a 17% pay deduction. Which gets at the interesting question that's bugged the crap out of me is back in the 70s when stagflation hit, which sure smacks like something we're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
The economists all thought the stagflation was impossible. And I'm thinking about this. I'm going, okay, let's think about that. So I can buy far less with my salary than I used to be able to buy, and therefore, because that's inflation, and that is not stagnating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're
And so
right.
to me, it seems like the two out of, and people say, well, if interest rates go up, gold will go down. And I go, wait a minute, let me see if I got this right. Gold goes up when there's inflation. Interest rate goes up when there's inflation. Why do those two not correlate on together? Right. Why are
Yeah.
they inversely correlated again?
Yeah. It's just
Right.
it's
It
just
takes a chemist to get down to this level. I think when you're an expert in the field, you get all tangled up in the details.
yeah,
And
yeah, for
sometimes,
sure.
sometimes the little kid comes along and says, by the way, that emperor over there, he has no clothes.
Yeah, literally. You nailed
That's
it.
my job. That's my job. Hey, that guy has no clothes. So I think we are going to have crises going forward, and we will get through them because there's no other choice,
Yeah, they have to.
right?
They have to either
But
flood the
I
system with
think
more money.
huge political events on the horizon include the formation of the new and improved and huge BRICS. And people say, well, the BRICS currency is not a threat. I go, it's not about currency. Those are complete restructuring of global alliances. So the
It's about
BRICS
trade.
20, it's about trade. It's about whose team you're affiliating with. You're saying, excuse me, I'm with Putin now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Since when does the United States get told by all these countries, by the way, we're going with Putin on this one?
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna buy
Uh,
oil from him. We're gonna get goods in
and we're
trade.
just
Yeah.
we're just not going to align with the United States, and that means our military isn't scaring them. That means our position in the world is not scaring them. That
Hmm.
means they're looking to the future, saying, the world power space is moving to the east.
And the US
Um,
and the US petrodollar is only as strong as if everyone
right.
uses it. If all the
And
countries
the
are
new
using the
BRICS
US petrodollar.
includes the guys who are maintaining the petrodollar.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
So the Saudis are going brick on us,
Yeah,
and they are the petrodollar, right?
yeah. And if they move
So
off the petrodollar, then what do we do? Invade everyone?
well, I found it actually disturbing. You've heard where when Saddam said he was going to trade oil in euros, that's why
Yeah.
we bombed him. But that's kind of one of those dark corner of the internet theories. And then the most grounded person I can imagine, Lynn Alden, happened to mention that. Just as a matter of fact, she said they stopped denominating their oil in dollars, and next thing you know, we bombed them. And
I,
I
I
go,
think
oh boy.
I think it was more like I think it was a lot of African and Middle Eastern countries that were moving away from the US petrodollar at that time before 2001. Like Gaddafi was moving away, the
Well,
Libyan
that worked
to
out
go.
really well. That
Yeah,
worked
yeah.
out really well,
See,
right?
he tried to sell his oil not from US petrodollar, but gold dinar. So
Right,
because
right,
they had, I guess, a ridiculous amount of gold in Libya per compared to per capita. Yeah.
right,
So
right.
I guess maybe that's Lynn Alden's view of it is, you see these countries in the Middle East and Africa starting to move away from the US petrodollar, and then I'm sure it's more than that. I'm sure it's not
But
just
I, but
one
I,
thing.
I think I think it shocks the average American if they actually come to terms with the idea that we've killed 4.5 million people in the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
To think that we're killing them because of currency debates, right? There's
No.
a lot of people who for that, if that finally clicks, they're going to go, are we now the bad guys?
Right, right, right. Yeah,
And
yeah, you're
that's going to
right.
cause some trouble because we want to be the good guys. The average person wants to be the good guys, and which is why Trump's got legs, because Trump tries to do deals. He talks to the average American. He might be lying his ass off for all we know, but
Right.
he talks straight to them. He says, "I'm going to help you." Whereas the Democrats seem to miss them completely now. I mean, they really look like they're missing them completely.
Yeah, I
So
think
the 2024 election could be a nightmare. I can't see a path to 2025 that isn't awful. I just
Yeah,
can't see it.
like if well, let's say what happens in this year, like anything could happen. You're right. There could be complete chaos. There could be, it could lean one way or the other way, but absolutely there could be complete chaos,
But
Dave.
the only path I can see is if somehow the Democrats found a candidate that you can
That's just way
say with
better
a
than
straight
Biden. Yeah.
face.
They could
It's
have,
way better than Biden. And with a straight face, you can see maybe he did beat Trump. Maybe
I
she did beat Trump.
they could bring Michelle Obama just because of the
I've
name.
heard she wants nothing to do with it. Now, if you were worth $80 million, you had a house on Martha's Vineyard,
I
would
wouldn't
you
want
want
to.
to go back to the swamp?
No.
No. She's gonna
Yeah,
go, Barack, come on, let's go. Let's just hit the
yeah,
beach, right? And
yeah, yeah.
Barack likes golf, and so I've heard from people who supposedly know her that she wants nothing to do with it, that that's
Which makes
fiction.
sense. Which makes sense. It's not a, I'm
Right.
sure, right? The second you announce any type of presidency, half the country hates you and the other half love you.
And especially if they've got stuff in the closet.
Oh yeah.
Because the Obamas aren't worth. I saw the last 6 presidents and their net worth before and after their presidency, and the Obamas did very, very well
Oh yeah,
during that
The
8 years.
Clintons. I thought the Clintons
Clintons
were
are the winners.
broke.
The Clintons are
Yeah,
the
they were.
winners. The
I think
Clintons
they
went
were
270-fold increase in their net worth, but the Obamas were like an 80-fold increase in their net worth.
not bad, not bad.
Trump actually lost money supposedly.
I think it was like 50 or 100 mil, something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's got a few dollars left, I'm told. And so I could imagine that they would not want to be, thinking that, okay, we're now going into retirement and we can hide all our misdeeds. I'm thinking now, I don't think you want to open that can of worms again.
Right, because then the spotlight would be, and especially in today's age, in 2024, with everything that's going on, they'd be,
Oh,
oh
we're going to
yeah.
hear big Mike jokes all the way, all the way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dave, it's actually such a great pleasure having you come down to Wall Street Silver and chat with us. And hopefully, as the market develops, and we'll keep a close eye on what Powell's doing and with the gold, we'd love to have you back.
Okay, my pleasure.
All
Thank
right,
you.
talk to you soon.